Is your 2026 strategy already obsolete? Let's talk about the Q2 pivot. I want to start today's episode with a question that might sting you just a little bit. We're 60 days into 2026, and I want to ask you, how are your numbers looking? Because if you're honest with yourself, and I want you to be, there's a good chance that revenue isn't matching the effort that you've been putting into it. You've started January extremely fired up, right? You had a plan, and now it's March, and something isn't adding up. Here's what I want you to hear today. It's not the hustle, and the hustle's not the problem. Working harder is not the answer, and the answer is changing the math. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So let's go ahead and get into it. Let me give you a little context first, okay? The recent industry survey found that 70% of CEOs are already behind in their 2026 goals. Can you believe that? 70%. And we're only 60 days in. And gosh, I can't even believe 60 days. Where is this year going? I mean, it was just New Year's, right? So now most business owners respond to the news one in two ways. They either panic or they start doing more content, more reach out, more hustle, or they freeze and tell themselves, it's okay, I'll catch up in Q2. But both of those responses are incorrect. They're wrong. And here's what's actually happening. The business landscape shifted faster than most people's plans accounted for. The AI disruption, market vitality, digital fatigue, the strategy that you wrote back in December was built for a version of 2026 that doesn't quite exist yet. And that is not your fault, but it is your responsibility to respond to it. And the way that you respond to it isn't by working more. It's by pivoting smarter right now before April the 1st. And I want to take you back to 2010, but I want to take you back to 2008 for just a second, because I lived through this professionally in a way that most people didn't. So I was in banking during the financial crash. And what I watched happen in real time was both devastating and instructive. So banks are failing left and right? So institutions that looked solid on paper were collapsing almost overnight. But here's what I watched about the ones that didn't fail. It wasn't about the banks with the most cash on hand that survived. It was the ones with the deepest strategic partnerships, the ability to pivot their operations fast. They had relationships with other institutions that they could call on, kind of like the partnering thing. They reached out to their friends. Hey, what are y'all doing? They had internal systems that could be flexible. They had leadership teams that weren't managing every single task. They were managing the outcomes, which is vastly different. And when the environment changed overnight, they changed with it. They didn't panic, is what I'm trying to say. They changed with all of that. And the lesson basically stayed with me for almost 20 years. Your business right now is facing its own version of a market shift, not a crash, but it's recalibration. And it's the CEOs who come out of first quarter strong aren't the ones that are grinding the hardest. I'm sorry, there's stuff going on outside of my window and it's catching my attention here. They're the ones, kind of like squirrel, right? They're the ones that have the right rooms, the right relationships, and the right systems to pivot before everyone else does. That's the edge, and it's available to every single one of you right now. It's available to you. So let's get practical. I want to walk you through 3 simple steps that you can do this week before March gets away from you. Here we are at the end of February, going into March. By the time you hear this podcast, it will be March. So by the time March gets away from you, let's talk about step one, being the Q1 audit. So pull out your calendar and look at where your time actually went in January and February. Not where it's supposed to go, where it actually went. And I want you to be ruthless about this. I mean, if I got my calendar out, I'm looking over here because this is where my calendar is if I look over here, I can look at all of the one-on-ones that I had, all of the network meetings that I had, phone calls that I made that were personal, but catching up with people. Find the same thing. So most CEOs, when they do this exercise, find the same thing. They spent a significant chunk of their highest value hours on tasks that had nothing to do with revenue or relationships. But I can promise you, if you look at mine, you are going to see that mine was filled with revenue producing activities. You're going to see that it was filled with building relationships. You're not going to see that it was filled with admin stuff or responding to emails. It's embarrassing to say how many I shared with somebody a while ago, how many emails. I couldn't even find an email because my emails are buried with junk emails, people trying to sell me or people trying to reach out to me for things that I don't even need to be working on. I'm working on what I need to be working on, and that's making money. I don't have to put out fires like a lot of people do because I don't have that mess in my business or managing things that should have been delegated or automated. I don't have to deal with a lot of that. So your calendar is going to tell you the truth about your business. Your calendar, you should listen to your calendar. If there's white space on your calendar, what did you do in that white space? It should be filled with revenue producing activity. So let's talk about step two. That's the friction filter. Ask yourself this one question. What is the single bottleneck that is slowing down my revenue right now? In my experience working with CEOs and entrepreneurs, that answer or the answer to that question with CEOs and entrepreneurs is almost the same. The bottleneck is the CEO. You are the bottleneck. You are in the way of your own growth because you're the one touching everything, deciding everything, doing everything. Identify the one place where you, specifically you, are creating a slowdown, and that's where you need to start. Remove yourself from those things and let other people take care of those things or automate those things so that you can be in the right community doing what you need to be doing, and that's connecting to the right people so that you can grow and scale your company. And that takes me into step number 3, dynamic scaling. And this is where it gets extremely exciting. Once you know where your time is spent and where the friction is, then you can start to build a smarter Q2. And in 2026, that means combining 2 things: leverage, AI leverage, and human relationships. AI handles the tasks that don't require your voice, your judgment, or relationship capital. Or you have other people that do that. And the strategic human relationships handle everything that AI can't. Trust, referrals, warm introductions, collaborative partnerships, all of those things. And when you can combine those 2 things, you stop trading time for money and you start building leverage. And leverage is the only thing that's going to let you scale without burnout. And before I give you a call to action today, I want to name something directly because I hear it all of the time. People say, Tanya, I feel like I'm on this treadmill. I'm working harder than I feel like I was in January. But the revenue isn't matching the effort. Yes, exactly. That's the treadmill. And the treadmill, it feels productive because you're moving, you're getting those steps in, but you're not going anywhere. You're staying on that treadmill. Here's the reframe that I want you to hold on to. You don't have a growth problem. You have a leverage problem. Growth, I promise you, growth is available to you right now, but you can't access it by doing more of the same thing harder. You have to access it by getting into the right rooms, building the right relationships, and creating systems that work when you are not working. Did you understand that? You access it by getting in the right rooms, building the right relationships, and creating systems that work when you're not working. That is not a theory. That is a framework. And that's exactly what we've built my business around for the last several years, especially after 34 years in banking, watching what actually works at scale. We had to have systems in place. We had lots of systems in place. And here's what I'm going to leave you with today. If your Q1 numbers aren't where you want them to be, please, please, please do not walk into Q2 alone. Don't go back to that treadmill. Don't buy another course and sit with information on your computer or on your desk with that information by yourself, hoping and praying that something changes. Come and be in a room with other CEOs and entrepreneurs, small business owners who are fixing the math together. And that's what the Power Connectors community is. It's a curated community of growth-focused business owners who are building through strategic relationships, smart leverage, and real accountability. They are not doing cold outreach, not algorithm changes or chasing, just the right people in the right room and all growing together. I want you to go to thepowerconnectors.org and see if it's your kind of room. Go there, check it out. And if today's episode hit home to you, share it with one business owner in your world who needed to hear this. Your next referral might be the person you send it to. I'm Tanya Gossage. Relationships are the new CEO. I'll see you again next week. Bye.